Hello, supply chain enthusiasts, and welcome to another edition of Wavelength Wednesday, our technical webinar series designed to help you get the very best out of your Ivanti wavelength solutions. We've got a lot of exciting material to cover today, and we appreciate you joining us again. So we'll dive right in. We want to hear from what we cover in each of these, what you want to hear about next. So please visit our forums, go to the Ivanti Ideas section, and let us know what topics you want us to cover in future Wavelength Wednesdays. For today, got a very busy agenda. You can see what we've got on here. We've got covering our latest release of Velocity. We're going to take a tour of the Ivanti community portal. We're going to dive into a different form factor device with the WS50. And also a part two of something we covered a couple of Wavelength Wednesdays ago, the adding devices using the Neurons for IoT platform. As we get started, I also want to remind our audience, please take advantage of the Q&A. You should see that on the console panel there. As we go through each section, we will take a look at the Q&A afterwards and do our best to answer questions during the time. If we don't get to your question, don't worry. We will follow up with you separately after the event is over. All right, to get things started, our first demo will be from Mr. Michael Foster from the product management team. He's been with us for quite some time, got a lot of exciting things to cover. And so as we jump into the latest release of Velocity, keeping workers on task is a big part of achieving KPIs. There's no surprise there, right? But enabling them to complete forms, whether incident reports and exception handling, or routing forklift inspections, just to name a few, being able to complete those forms within their Velocity applications at the point of activity, that's next level time savings. So before we run the demo, Michael, what's your take on these digital forms as part of the process automation?
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I think you really hit the nail on the head there with keeping workers both focused and on task and letting them solve those exceptions that happen when in any operations as quickly as possible. Now, so many times when we're in a warehouse watching people's operations, and we'll see someone with Velocity in their hand, with a device in their hand, and they have to end up putting that device down to go fill out a piece of paper, go do something else. And the goal of Velocity Forms with our BPA is to help them complete that on the device. They can take care of that issue on the device and then go ahead and go back to their task. They get to be more efficient, makes them happier. The operation's more efficient. The operation manager's a little bit happier. So everyone wins in that case. So that's really the end goal. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, Rob. So yeah, we'll now dive in kind of an end-to-end demo. It's going to show what it looks like, how quick and easy it is to configure a form. Get from that point where you really have an idea, you have something you want to solve, to the point where you're making use of that data and the worker and everyone's taking advantage of it. It's super, super quick. So I'll run you through that here in this demo video. Hello, I'm Michael Foster, the product manager for Velocity here at Ivanti Wavelength. Today I'll walk through an end-to-end configuration of Velocity Forms and business process automation. The goal of Velocity Forms is to save your workers and your business time when handling exceptions that happen outside of a normal workflow. Forms can be used in many ways, like digitizing a safety inspection form, tracking time exceptions for your workers, requesting a replenishment of an item, or like the example we'll use today, submitting a report of a damaged item. The options are truly unlimited. Velocity Forms does not require a new app to be installed on the device or for your workers to be trained on a new process. The form can be placed right into the workflow, so the worker is presented with the correct form at the right time and does not need to go looking for help. The process starts by creating a form inside the Velocity console. Drag and drop the components that you want to use onto the form. In this case, I have a couple of text areas that will hold the part number, description, location of the damaged item, the user ID of the worker, and allows the worker to take a photo of the damage. On the screen that the worker will be on, Velocity already knows the part number, description, and location of the item, so I've configured these to automatically pull from the screen so the worker does not have to fill those details in. From here, simply publish the form and the workflow is ready for the user. Now onto the worker's device. This is showing the Windows version of the Velocity client, and the same experience will happen on the Android client as well. On the screen is an internal test server with a TE connection, and the same functionality will also work on connections to web backends. In this case, the worker will enter the workflow by pressing 3, which will present the item details. The item that they need to pick is a top bearing and it is damaged, so the worker now wants to submit a damage report. This screen already has the part number, description, and location of the item, so the Velocity form will automatically pull those from the screen into the form itself. The worker simply taps the key on the keyboard to select the damaged item form, and they're automatically taken to the form with details filled in. The details from the previous screen are already filled in, so the worker only needs to enter their user ID and take a photo. Once the form is ready, the worker hits submit, and they are now back into their normal workflow. From here, they can pick the item they need and move on to the next item. The worker doesn't have to leave their workflow or find help from someone. They have the tools they need right on the device that is already in their hands. Now that the damage report is submitted, the power of Ivanti Neurons for IoT takes over to bring real automation to the process. IoT receives and stores all of the submitted forms and can take action on those forms based on criteria that you define. In this case, we'll say that there are 2 possible areas for damaged items, A1, which is where our worker was previously, and A2, which is the cold storage area. When a form is submitted in area A1, the floor manager and the accounting team both will receive a notification of the item with the details filled in. If a form is submitted in area A2, the cold manager will be notified along with accounting. In the case of a forklift inspection, the maintenance team and management likely only want a notification if something needs attention and wants to store completed forms for compliance reasons, but doesn't need a notification of each one. Velocity Forms makes it easy to handle this scenario. In this case, a notification will only be sent if the forks are marked as anything other than functional, like if they're bent or damaged in some way. If the forks are functional, the form is saved and can be retrieved later as needed. In cases where the admin wants to see all of the completed forms in one location, for example to show inspection reports for compliance, Ivanti Neurons for IoT stores forms on the server and they can be retrieved here in the Forms area. This shows all of the forms that are available to workers, the last time they were used, and the number of submissions for each one. Opening the damaged item form, we can see each submission in a grid and open each one to see the full details, including the photo. Ivanti Neurons for IoT stores forms for a configurable period of time, which is visible here and being configured to meet your business's needs. From end to end, the worker has the necessary form right at their fingertips on the device they are already using, and seconds after submitting the form, the responsible parties are notified to take action. No one needs to fill out and turn in a paper form, no one needs to do data entry with a paper form, and no one needs to manually notify the right people. It is all done automatically. This takes a manual process that has several points of failure and takes several minutes to complete to a fully automated process that is easier and quicker for workers and ensures the right people have the right data every time.
All right, great demo, Michael. Questions from our audience. Could you explain the autofill section to autofill data via the TE screen in more detail, please?
Yeah, sure thing. So that's configured within the form itself and in the form UI. I mean, that can be done through either a row column length if you need to specify something like that, to specify a certain location, or if you need to look for a certain label, we can do a label above or below, something along those lines. So depending on how that screen's set up, we can pull that data from that either way.
Sweet. Okay, and to the audience member who had that question, if you need more detail, we can certainly take further offline, but appreciate the question. All right, into our next segment. Our next demo comes from Nathan Olson from our technical support team. He's been with us for 5 years and rock and rolling. And, asking for help is sometimes necessary in any line of work, right? And who doesn't appreciate some expert advice, especially when it comes to optimizing business operations, right? Every one of us can appreciate that. Some of you may already have used our community portal, and for others, This may be new. Nathan, anything you'd like to add before we tour the community?
Yeah, just from a technical support standpoint, I interact with customers on the front line every day, hear their challenges, and it really is a great resource. There's tons of info available. A lot of, the challenge in the technical world is overcoming, you know, just the technical challenges that you're faced with when using supply, data, gathering data, trying to collaborate all these devices and coordinate everything. And the last thing you want to worry about is trying to figure out the workflow. The workflow should just be something you can dive right into, and that's what's great about the Ivanti community portal is all of the info there regarding how to use our software or how to address those challenges. It pretty much is just all available at your fingertips. There's anytime there's not something that's covered there, if we find a need, we'll publish stuff. We're constantly publishing things, new articles, new information. If there's ever an issue, you have access to support right when you need it. Pretty much anytime you can submit a ticket towards, to our technical support team, and we can jump in and help address that solution or that issue and find a solution for you.
Great, great. Let's take a look.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending Wavelink Wednesdays. I'm Nathan Olson with the Ivanti Wavelink team, and I'm a technical support engineer. Been with the team since about August of 2018. I wanted to take a minute just to demonstrate some of the resources we have available here at our forums.ivanti.com page. One of the first things I want to point out is how to register. It's really simple. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see an option that says login. If you go there, that's going to take you to a page where if you're registered, you can already, can log in and access the resources. If you're not registered, just click on the register here link. That's going to take you to a simple form. It's going to ask you for your email address, your country, and ask you to complete a number verification. Once you do that, you'll get an automated email and you validate your email address. From there, you'll be able to access all the content here out at forums.ivanti.com. One of the most important resources that we get asked is how do I contact support? How do I open a support inquiry? Up here at the top, you just click contact support. You can contact us by telephone from Americas, Europe, Asia Pacific. No matter where you are geographically, you'll be able to contact Ivanti support and get a hold of somebody during business hours. So that's a really great resource to be aware of. If you'd rather submit a ticket online, just go here to Ivanti Success Portal, log a case online. You want to click Technical Product Support. And in the form, you'll want to select the product you're inquiring about, as well as give as much detail about the issue or inquiry that you can. That, when submitted, will go to our technical support team. Either myself or one of my colleagues will get that ticket, and we're really quick at responding to those. Some of the other resources you have access to out here would be our forum groups and our knowledge base. There's a couple of different links you can use to access some of these, but a really quick, easy way is just scroll down on the page a little bit. There's these buttons here. To access our knowledge base, you can go to Search for Knowledge. And this is a great tool. Pretty much any how-to guides, common problems, setup guides, config guides, all of those will be available here. We can do a test inquiry and kind of show you some of the great content that we have out here. One common inquiry is, how do I deploy a WLDEP velocity profile to a device? So if we go ahead and search for that, you can also include the product name in your inquiry, or down here under the product column, you can also do a filter to search for, hone in and search for that specific product. But it's also just fine to include it in the name. They both seem to work fairly effective, and your relevant results will be listed, as far as relevancy will be listed top to bottom. A good article right here, Android 11, how to deploy a WLDEP profile using StageNow. This gives you some screenshots, step-by-step guides on how to deploy that velocity profile on an Android 11 device, because on Android 11, we have some challenges related to the scopes file storage. If there's an article that you're commonly referring to, using a lot, you can follow that article. You can also view the articles you follow, or you can submit a question that'll go to the support team, and we can provide article feedback. To search for some other content, like, say you need some news or you're interested in following a certain product for when it releases new updates or other important information regarding that product. An important one is the Velocity landing page. You're going to search for that Velocity landing page. It's going to be the second article in the list. This article is updated periodically, and actually every time we do a release, we'll put more information regarding that product. Things that are relative to its release will be here. And you can follow that article. You can see that I've followed that article. So every time there is a new change to that article published, I get notified by email. If you're interested in more of the technical details concerning a release, just head outside of our forums.ivanti.com page over to wavelink.com/download. Under the product software downloads list, you'll find some of our products. In this case, we'll just click Velocity. And here you'll find a lot of the product guides, official product documentation. You'll also see some of the release notes. And those release notes go back historically. So if you're looking for specific things in a specific version, you can open up those release notes and find things as far as like feature enhancements that we've already added or bug fixes. Back over to forums.ivanti.com. If you're interested, we have a forum where peers and other users in the supply chain industry of Ivanti Wavelink products can participate. That includes asking questions, coming up with solutions, viewing information that other users have posted. In this case, we'd go to Ivanti Wavelink. You'll see all of the Wavelink products here. If we were to drill into Velocity, you'll see some pertinent information here regarding the product. This will also include some updates whenever we release a new release of Velocity. You can also subscribe to this page to get notifications when a new article is published, for instance. And a lot of those times it'll be like the Velocity landing page that I just mentioned. One last resource I would like to highlight is our Ivanti Ideas page. You can access that on the forums.ivanti.com page by going to the Ivanti Ideas button or to the More drop down and going to Ivanti Ideas. Here on the Ideas page, you can click Add a New Idea. Make sure to choose your product, and in this case, we're going to pick Velocity. Include some details about your feature enhancement request or idea here in the title, as well as any mock-ups, screenshots, how it impacts your production, number of users, and just generally why that idea or feature enhancement would benefit your productivity as far as it relates to one of our products. Once that's submitted, the info is going to go to our product team, and they're going to thoroughly review all the info submitted and give you some feedback on how we'll be able to implement that. It's not always a guarantee that when you enter a feature enhancement or an idea that it's going to be considered, but the more info, the better. I definitely recommend having your peers come and register here and log in and vote for those ideas as well. Now, if you're unsure if the feature you're asking for already exists in the product, I recommend reaching out to technical support, and we can oftentimes find a solution, whether it be through a script or some other method, to satisfy the scope of your need. But ultimately, if it's a feature that's going to need some development or work to be implemented into the product, I definitely recommend coming in here, adding your idea. The more details, the better. If you have some colleagues or peers, I recommend having them register here as well, because they can come in here and upvote your idea. Obviously, the more feedback we get for an idea from users, the more likelihood there's going to be that we implement that feature in a future release of our product. As you may know, Velocity, all of our Wavelink products, we work on the standard quarterly release cycle. So every quarter, we're going to be coming out with enhancements, updates, and bug fixes. And I recommend trying to stay on top of that, because it's a lot. Sometimes you might have a feature that can impact your workflow. Staying on top of these resources and being connected to them, you don't have to necessarily go to our page and check it every day. You can follow those pages to get updates. That way you're kind of in the know, because everybody's busy in the technical world, and especially in the supply chain industry. I want to thank you for your time. attending Wavelength Wednesdays and let you know we really appreciate you as an Ivanti customer. And our door is always open here in support. So if you have an issue, question, whatever it may be, go ahead and give us a call or submit a support ticket, and we'll be more than happy to help. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Nathan. No, and that's definitely given. We're here for you as a partner in making sure that your solutions are up and running. So take full advantage of all that we have available from our support organizations. Looking at the Q&A, let's see, Nathan. Do the forums use the same login as your Wavelength download page?
No, they're actually separate. So if you need to register, well, you would have to register for our Wavelength download page. It's free, to anybody to register with a business email address. So, not a Yahoo, not a Gmail domain, but they would use separate logins, just to be aware. So if you are trying to access the download page, just make sure to register as for that as well.
Okay. Can I still access knowledge base in forums without support and maintenance?
For the most part, yes. Some of the resources, the more advanced articles, there is value to having support and maintenance. So some of those resources are not as accessible if you're not, if you're not under a support and maintenance contract. But as a general rule of thumb, like the main kind of how-to guides and kind of baseline usage of the software is usually publicly accessible.
Okay, cool. I think we got time for one more. What's the difference between the Ivanti Success Portal and the Ivanti community?
The community, well, the Success Portal is part of the Ivanti community. So I think I had a link. Let me see here. We have a landing page that explains what the community is in more detail, but basically the community is kind of a broader overview, and the Success Portal is just one portion of that allows you access to more of the technical support realm of things. The community encompasses ideas, the forums, and a whole lot more.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate it. On to our next segment is coming from Ian Edson, who's been with us 15 years now, Ian. Time does certainly fly. That's awesome.
Does.
So, enterprise mobile devices, they come in all kinds of form factors. We've got the traditional rugged handhelds and their trigger handle equipped siblings for more scan intensive use cases. Wearables, they've been around for quite a while. And the latest offer from Zebra offers new opportunities for workflow optimization while keeping both hands available for picking. Ian, can you share a little perspective before we dive into this demo of the WS50?
Yeah, it certainly does. It's obviously a much smaller form factor, and it's warm on the back of your hand. So, but over the years, we've been used to large screens in terms of for users to view. So the WS50 does pose a few challenges because it's a much smaller screen. So my demo will take us through some of the tips and tricks that we can use in Velocity, especially around modernization, to make the best use and the optimal use of that screen estate that we have. So roll the video.
All right, here we go.
Hello, my name's Ian Edson. I'm the Sales Engineering Manager for Ivanti Wavelength. I'm based in the UK, and my team and I cover the whole of EMEA. Today, for this Wavelength Wednesday series, I'm going to talk about modernizing Telnet screens on Zebra's WS50. So here you can see the WS50. It's Zebra's new wearable computer. It's in a very small form factor, and it is a full mobile computer. It's running an Android 11 operating system, and the screen size is approximately 2 inches square. It's not just a remote display. We don't use this with a host device and just send down information to the remote display. This is a full computer. So the size of the screen presents us with some challenges when it comes to running our Velocity applications on this device, because Telnet applications can consist of many rows and many columns of data, and to present that information on a very, very small screen like there is on the WS50, it means that the users will have to be looking at very, very small font sizes. So here's an example of a Telnet native screen menu. Here we've got some menu options. There's about 14 menu options, and we've also got the input field at the bottom. And that's going to pose a challenge when we go to display that in native mode on the WS50, because we also have to think about having a virtual keyboard. Because the WS50 has no physical keyboard, we need to also think about having a virtual keyboard on the screen at the same time, so the user can enter the option for that menu. Obviously, in native mode, we have transparent keyboards, but again, it's going to result in a very, very small font size for the user on the device. So really, we need to look at modernization and using some of the powerful modernization features in the product, or in the Velocity product. Things like the use of images, the use of scrolling to see additional information about a particular task, maybe the use of other input methods to minimize the use of the on-screen keyboard. So maybe thinking about NFC, maybe thinking about barcode scanning to automate some of those tasks, which traditionally the user would use the keyboard. So what I'm going to show you today in this session is I'm going to show you a couple of just sync here my device, a couple of demos that we've put together to really utilize and show off some of these modernization features in our Velocity products, especially on this WS50 device. So we'll look at Modernize 1. This is just going to pop up in a second. So straight away, the demo is going to ask for the username and a password to log into the application. Now, this is a numeric username and password, and you'll see at the bottom there a numeric keyboard has appeared. And we can scroll that keyboard to access other keys in that keyboard. So we've got a carousel system there. Now, if we make the keys any smaller, we're going to present problems with users with big fingers pressing the wrong keys, and that's just going to drive up the level of frustration. So what we've done here is we've made the keys at an acceptable size and introduced scrolling on the keyboard so that the user can log in with their very easy into the application. So I'm just going to log in there with my username, but what we could also consider, if I just delete that, is the use of maybe barcode scanning for the username and password, or even the use of NFC. So here in this demo I've enabled NFC, and I have an NFC card. I'm just going to tap that on the screen, and it's going to log me into the application. So here, what you see here is the first of the menu options. Now, typically, as I said at the beginning of the session, when we looked at a native screen, those menu options are listed vertically on the application. But what we've done here is we've replaced those menu options with buttons. So we replaced those with buttons, and we've put images on those buttons to further enhance the meaning to the user. So to see those other menu options, rather than having to scroll down, what we've introduced is the concept of scrolling horizontally. So we can scroll horizontally to see more of those menu options from that menu. So that's the use of scrolling. So what we're doing here, we're minimizing the amount of information on the one screen, but the user can access other information by scrolling left and right. So if I go ahead and press totes, we're coming in here to our first task, which is to scan our task number. Again, the use of images, making the screen very, very simple. Now, if we scan that task number, we now go to our location. So our location code is M58. 15F10, but what we're doing here is we're just presenting the first part of the information on the screen, which is M58, which is the aisle. And if the screen user then walks to that aisle, they can scroll, they can swipe, and they can see the bay, and then they walk to the bay and they can swipe again and they see the level. So very, very easy for the user to see further information about that location. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scan that location. And we come to the actual pick. So we're going to pick here 27 of these cooling fans. We put an image of the product on the screen, and to minimize again the use of the keyboard, normally the user would enter 27 and press the enter key on the physical keyboard. What we got here is we replaced that with a confirm button. So the user can confirm that and it will automatically send 27 back to the host. Now if we go to the next location, again scrolling right and left to see additional information about that location, and then if we scan that location barcode, and this time we're picking 68, but what we're going to do is we're going to short this because only 66 is available. So if I press the short button, it pops up, the keyboard pops up again, and I can scroll to enter the short quantity of 66. And I go to my next location, down that location, confirm that quantity, and again go to the last location, scan that, and easily confirm that quantity. And then it's presenting me with the printer, which printer I want to print the label for that pick. So I'm going to choose main, and then the final part is I'm going to scan the location. So that's just the first demo I wanted to show you, and you can see how we've made a Telnet application very, very usable for the task worker. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just start the device, reset the device, so I can show you the second application. But while I do that, while that device restarts, I'm just going to show you how we've managed to enable that left and right scrolling on this particular menu. So if I open up the Velocity console here, you'll see here that I've got that menu, and it's shown vertically in the console here, and each item is a button, and we're representing each button in a table. And then we have a script that we've created called Small Display Layout. That's using some really clever CSS to present those menu options in a horizontal manner, so the user can scroll left and right. So that's how we've done that. So this script is can be available for everyone to use in their modernization as well, in their modernization product. So just let us know if you need this script, and we can share it with you. Right, my WS50 is just starting up again, and this next demo I'm going to show you was created by my colleague Josh Cooney, and it really shows how you can start to use images to really show off some of the features on the product in the project. I mean, not the product. So I'm just going to scroll down here to launch Velocity, and then this time I'm going to select Modernize 2. Josh has done in his demo has really gone for the use of images similar to the first demo, but fitting those images on the screen, on the menu screen, so that we're not really scrolling horizontally, but you'll see the use of clever images to actually present the whole menu on the screen. So this time I'm going to log in. Again, the use of the keyboard, press the enter key, enter the password. So we'll just enter the password, press the enter key, and now we see the main menu. So this main menu now has appeared on the screen. We've got all the options on the screen, so we can see tote, label, task. And in the previous demo, I was having to scroll left and right to see those, but the clever use of images in a reduced size has enabled us to fit all of those menu options on that one screen. So I go to tote. Again, the clever use of images here to tell us that we need to scan the task number. We have a nice exit button if we need to exit out of this particular task. What I'm going to do again is I'm going to go ahead and scan that task number. And I'm told to go to the location again. This location code is now presented fully on the screen, and the clever use of smaller images again as well to give the user some options there to press. So I'm going to scan that barcode for the first location. And I'm going to go, and again, we've got the image on the screen, we've got the quantity that we're needing, and we've got a confirm button. But again, the clever use of an image there with a tick to emphasize what that particular button is doing. So if I confirm that, it's going to send 27 to the host, and I'm going to go to the next location, scan that. And this time, again, rather than picking 68, I'm going to short this because only 66 is available. If I short this, rather than a keyboard popping up like in the last demo, we've actually got up and down arrows to adjust that quantity. So if I wanted to now to reduce that quantity to 66, I press that down arrow twice and it would reduce the input field to 66. And once I'm happy with that, I can then press that confirm button there in the middle. And then I go to the next location, I scan that barcode, and again, I can quickly confirm. I go to the last location, scan that barcode, and then I can confirm once I've picked that. And then again, two nice images that appear to emphasize the printer that we're going to print our label to. And then finally, we scan the staging location. Again, a clear instruction that we need to make a scan. So we can now scan that staging location. Then we're back to the start of the demo. Now, during the demos, you will also notice that I've hidden the velocity taskbar. I've made it immersive because if you display a velocity taskbar, it's going to take up a bit of the screen at the bottom. With what we're really looking to do on this device is utilize as much of that small screen estate as best as possible. So hopefully that's given you a good overview on just how we can go about using our powerful modernization features in our Velocity product, minimizing the use of keyboards, because obviously when we pop up keyboards, we're taking some of that screen estate away, but also having keyboards that we can scroll left and right to present the user with sizable keys that they can easily key with their fingers. The use of NFC, the use of barcode scanning to again minimize keyboard entry, and the really clever use of images to present that data and making the application really clean, very easy to understand from a user's point of view. So thanks for listening, and see you again. Thank you. Bye.
All right, Ian. Thank you for that. Just looking through the questions. First, are we able to support voice? Speakeasy on the WS50.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, we've got demos to show voice on the device. There was a rumor when the device was initially launched that Speakeasy wasn't working on the device, but that's not true. Speakeasy is running on that device very well.
Okay, great. And are the demo projects available to download for future reference?
Certainly, we might work to get those available. We've got a demo already on that we can send a link to download from one of our demo websites. The second demo I showed, I think I just need to work with my colleagues to make that available to people as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right. And our final segment, a demo by David Bruneau from our solutions architect from Paris. So in one of our previous Wavelength Wednesdays, I believe it was our May 2023 edition, David took us on a tour of integrating Neurons for IIoT using MQTT. In case you missed it, this is a shameless plug. Free to go back and watch that recording. By the way, this one will be available in about 2 to 3 business days. So if you need to come back and reference this one, you'll be able to do so as well. Let's take a look at how to add devices today in the platform using HTTP.
Hello and welcome to this new video of Wavelength Wednesdays focused on the Neurons for IIoT platform. I'm David Brugnot, Strategic Solutions Architect at Ivanti Wavelength, and today I will be demonstrating how to add new devices to the platform. This video is a direct follow-up to our previous video where we discussed creating device templates using the MQTT protocol. In this one, we will explore how to achieve the same goal using the HTTP method. In this video, we won't be going into the full configuration of the template as it was already explained in the previous one, so please refer to the first video in this series for the configuration details and watch it if you haven't already. A quick reminder of what we saw in the last video. Remember that there is 2 different methods to add a new device to the platform. The first one is MQTT, that was the subject of the first video. The second method we can use is HTTP, and this is what we will cover. As a reminder also, we will use the same device than in the previous video, which is a CO2 temperature and humidity sensor connected via LoRa to the sync stack. So to configure our device templates, we will need our payload, which is a JSON payload sent by HTTP on a REST API entry point. So the goal of the configuration here is to create the device template so that it will be able to understand the payload, but we will also need to know the entry point that will be used by the TTN platform to send the information to Neurons for IIoT. The payload can generally be found on the device documentation or on one of the configuration screens of your IoT platform, or you can also use an external webhook site that will get the payload and display it for you. In this case, we will get the payload from the Think Stack configuration screen. Let me show you. So the Think Stack displays all the payloads that are sent each time a new message is sent by the LoRa device. So I just have to click on one of the payloads, select everything, and copy it. The next step will be to pass this payload into the Neurons for IIoT templates creation tool. So I come back on device template, I create a new template. I will call it HTTP post demo. So I've configured the basic information, and now I will just select API and not MQTT like we did previously. We've got all the same options than previously, but this time I will also show you how to apply a sequential friendly name. So I will create a prefix called CO2 sensor, and I will start my numbering at 1. So you see that if you look here, you see that all my sensors will now be named CO2 sensor 1, then CO2 sensor 2, and so. The next step are quite similar. So we'll just pass the payload I get from the TTN stack. I will then select the value that I want to use as the device ID, and I will now review my attributes exactly the same way we did previously. Now I've got all my attributes that are selected. I just have to set the friendly names. I've configured all my attributes except battery status. So I won't go too deep into the configuration process because this is something that has already been covered previously. I just want to go into detail for this attribute, which is battery status, because battery status is an enumeration, and we will use this case to discover how enumeration works, because we didn't cover that in detail in the last video. So I will select enumeration, and you see that I can define keys and values. So to know what to put in key and value field, you will have to refer to the documentation. But by looking at the documentation of this device, we know that the battery status can be one of the following values: full, and in this case, the value will be full. It can also be OK. In this case, the value returned by the device will be OK in lowercase. It can also be low. In this case, the return value will be low. And it can be critical. And in this case, the value returned will be critical in lowercase. So you will see in a minute how to use those enumeration and how those values are used in the scenario editor. But for the rest of the configuration, it is exactly the same thing. So you just have to click Next, define your system tags. And click on Next. Then review everything to be sure that it's OK. And you can now click on Deploy. I was a bit too quick here. Let me come back to the template configuration. So click on Edit Template here. And come back to summary. So in the summary of the configuration, you will have two very important configurations, the URL and the key value pair field. Those two fields are very important to configure your IoT platform to correctly send the information to the Neurons for IIoT platform. So we won't close this for the moment, and we will see in a minute how to use it. I'm now back on my The Thing Stack configuration interface, and I will add a new webhook. So in the Thing Stack Community Edition I'm using now, you've got a menu called Integration and Webhooks. So click on Webhooks and add a webhook. Click to add a custom webhook. So I have to give a name to my new webhook. The webhook format will be JSON, and here I've got to fill this field containing the base URL, and this is where we will need one of the two important fields I talked about previously. So here I will take the base URL and put it here. In this case, we don't have any downlink API key because we just want to get the information coming from the sensor. So we don't have any downlink URL. And now I will need the second important information available here, because I have to create a header entry in the webhook. Here I will take the first part, which is the n-IIoT-token part of the field. I will copy that, and I will create this additional header. And then I will take the next part of this field, copy it, and paste it here. The next step will be to define the type of event I want to forward to my Neurons for IIoT platform, and in this case it will be only the uplink messages, because I don't need to receive any other information. I just want to receive the temperature, CO2, humidity, and location information. Then I can create my webhook. And now I just have to wait for the next payload to be sent by the platform. So let's wait. So after waiting a bit, we received this new discovered device, exactly like we had for the MQTT method. The only difference here is you see that the template is HTTP post demo. So I will approve, and I will go back to my devices on the second page. So now I've got two devices. The first one is the CO2 OLED 01 device that has been created with the MQTT method. And the second one is the CO2 sensor 2 that has been created by the API method. I can now create scenarios using the device. And you can see that we've got all the different attributes we have defined. And what I want to show you is the battery status, because remember that we have defined that the battery status as an enumeration. And you can see that now instead of having a notch, like for example for the battery capacity, we've got this notch that we can use to put thresholds on. Instead of this notch, when I select battery status, I've got my enumeration. So that means I can set a scenario based not only on the value, also on predefined status, like it is the case for the battery status that can be full, okay, low, or critical. That concludes the training for the HTTP API method for creating device templates. Thanks for watching, and feel free to ask any question.
All right. A great part 2 demo by David. Appreciate that. We've covered a lot of content today, and I just want to remind everybody that if your question wasn't answered in our live presentation today, don't worry. We will make sure to follow up with you separately. As we wrap up, first, I want to thank everybody for coming. What's next, right? These are some of the topics we've got on the radar. But again, just as I said at the beginning, we really want to hear from you, right? The idea is to help you unlock the very best you can out of our solutions, get the most out of your deployments. So submit your ideas to us, and we look forward to being able to consider them for a topic for a future Wavelength Wednesday. With that, I'd like to thank all of our presenters and say thank you to all of our attendees, especially. We look forward to seeing you all on the journey to operational excellence. So thank you all for coming today. We'll see you soon.